Hi, everyone.
No one's here, probably. We have to wait so people say, hello, we are here. So we know that someone is here. Anyone there? Hello?
I'll send the link that you shared.
Yeah. Let's see. Probably no one is watching us.
This is very insulting.
This has a bit of a delay, so we have to...
Hi.
Okay. Hey. Hi, Reina.
Hi, Reina. Nice to see you.
Reina is from India.
Hey, cool.
Okay, so probably there are some people online. We can start. Let's start by saying that this is this is an activity that our local group from Amnesty International Portugal is organizing. It's the second edition. The first edition was last Thursday, the previous week, and we are doing this every week while we are stuck at home. So we are discussing the state of human rights amidst COVID-19. So we are talking with several activists, several organizations to see what is going on in their countries. And so we brought Chen this way. And I would like you to introduce yourself, what you do, and if you like to be here.
Thank you so much, Sofia. So my name is Chen. I know it's weird.
Sorry.
Chen is Chen. It's okay. It's in Hebrew. It's difficult. I'm from Israel. I'm a campaigner at Amnesty International Israel for almost 5 years now. And I've been working on several topics like asylum seekers, Palestinian rights, arms trade, discrimination, etc. And today we're here to talk about surveillance, right?
Yes. So what we did as a group was we were looking at this, right? We are stuck at home, so we see the news. And one of the Portuguese newspapers released a news about the surveillance in Israel. And we were very concerned about this and about how is this going to impact not only the pandemic, but further on. So we looked for you to clarify what's happening there. Let me just say first that we are going to have some space for questions in the end of all of this. So if you want to ask questions, people that are watching us, you can. What I was saying, that we were very concerned with this. So we wanted to talk with you about what is happening and how long is it happening and why did it happen?
Wow. Okay. I'll try to do it like very briefly so it doesn't bore you. Basically, we've been facing with the COVID-19 for a few weeks as well. And about a week and a half ago, the government decided that the Shin Bet, which is our security, the Secret Service, basically, that is supposed to be protecting from terror and stuff like that, the government decided that the Shin Bet should start using their tool and their people on the entire Israeli population in order to fight the corona spread between people. Now, a few important things to note. First, the government is temporary. There has been elections, and there's no new government yet, and still this temporary government goes to this length of policy changes in this radical way, because this is a very radical step to take. I mean, this is the first time in Israel. So first, the government is temporary. Second, there is no parliament yet as well. I mean, there is parliament, parliament members, but it takes some time for the committees to start working. So instead of going through the parliament committee and approving it and discussing it or not approving it, and deciding that this is crazy, they decided not to wait for the committee of the parliament, but and what they did is that in the middle of the night, when we were all sound asleep, they passed this policy as an emergency act.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a law. They basically bypassed the parliament. So what they did is a temporary government with no supervision decided to give the entire the ability to spy on everyone in the country to the secret service in the country with no supervision. So this is basically what happened about a week and a half ago.
Okay.
And there has been some developments. For example, there was the court decided that the Ministry of Health is not authorized to pass on information on people because it was no breach. I mean, even those basic limitations weren't grounded in any way. So basically, our information was free to be everywhere. And the committee of the Knesset is now operating, and they're trying to supervise, and they're still discussing on how to handle this. So while it's still happening, the discussion started.
So this is something that was decided by the government, but in real times, this should be done by so the parliament first, right? Because it's a law that influences human rights and fundamental rights.
I mean, I will give you I will try to make it more clear, okay? We have a government which is temporary, which is basically Bibi Netanyahu, who is trying to stay in power. This person is now facing a big medical crisis in the country. Yeah? He has to handle it, of course. However, this is still one person, prime minister, that decides to let the head of the Shin Bet, which is a completely different authority, even though it's under the government, I mean, it's autonomy. And he decides, okay, now you just go and spy on everyone. So just imagine, that it wasn't Corona. It was, I don't know, like maybe like an act of Palestinians against Israel.
Yeah,
or
sure.
For example, if it was like this crisis with asylum seekers, and they decided they want to deport everyone, so they need to spy on everyone to track them down to see where they were. And this is the problem. We're talking about a political person who is trying to use very high how do you say, like with forgot the word, like secret, very high secret tools behind the scenes with no transparency. He's not reporting to anyone, and he can do anything that he wants with this information, as well as the Shin Bet, as well as the Ministry of Health. And we do not trust, not the Ministry of Health, not the Shin Bet, and not the government.
So tell me something. Practically, so we are seeing this throughout Europe also. There are some countries that the governments developed some apps for people to check in when they are forced to be in quarantine, when they are infected, so that they don't. For example, I think in Poland they are doing this. So the police sends an alert. People have to check in on their phones, and if they don't, the police goes to their houses checking what's happening. How is it work there? Do you know you are being watched, or is it something that the being watched, I mean, you have to install something, or is it something that happens and you have no idea if you are being watched or not? And what do they see? Because
okay, so technically, and this is going to be a bit technical, okay?
Sure.
What we found out just maybe right after, like a few days after this plan was erupted, there was this great expo on our main newspaper in Israel, saying that the Shin Bet, the Shabak, the Secret Service, has been tracking and spying on all the Israeli people for like maybe 20 years anyway. I mean, this is something that they have going on in their, like basements. And then if they need to, locate someone or find information, like if they catch someone and they want his information, they just dig it out, from this database. So the database exists. They don't need me to do anything. Now, around this Corona tracking, what they did basically is that they asked the cell phone companies to give them the information that the cell phones themselves collect on their users.
Oh, okay.
Cell phone companies, our cell phone has a tracking device.
Sure.
So they can extract from my phone if I ask
whatever
them,
they want. Yeah.
Where was I a week ago in blah, blah, blah. So what happened is that the Shin Bet got all this information, all this access basically to this information through the cell phone companies. And then they, the health ministry would inform the Shin Bet with names of people that were tested positive for Corona, okay? And then the Shin Bet would track them down, by digital means, their phone, and just extract all the information they need in order to alert, like you said, everyone who has been around this person the past 2 weeks that can be infected. And then you get a message. You get to, basically, there are two kinds of messages you can get. If you are the person that is positive, the test, if you are the name given by the health ministry, then you get an SMS saying, hi, you were tested positive. So this is the Shin Bet, and now we're tracking down and letting everyone know, blah, blah, blah. And then if you're the other person, then you get a message saying, hi, Miss Chen Brill-Egri. Last week on the 27th of March at 2:00, you spent 20 minutes around this and that, and he was tested positive. Please go to quarantine.
Whoa.
Yeah. So this is how it works, but just imagine
the proportion.
What?
The proportion of it. All of the country. Yeah.
Yeah, the proportion. Is it really worthwhile? I mean, is it really, if we put aside ethics and human rights and everything for a second, is it really effective? Is it really worthwhile? And even if it is it a legitimate cause for the violation of my privacy and for the violation of my freedom of information and freedom of speech and for being, and doing whatever.
So this is something that is happening only with phones, or there are other ways of surveillance that you know of, like credit cards or?
No, I think it's phones, basically.
Just the phones, yeah. Okay. But I also read, and you also told me that there is also a problem with this because it's not only in the hands of the Shin Bet, right? It's going to private companies also. No,
so first the problem with this system, and then I can share another solution that the Israeli government wants to implement, but is still stuck.
Okay.
So of course we're talking about gross violation of human rights. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Is tracking people's own life, and regarding the Shin Bet, well, as an Amnesty International activist, I can tell you that in Israel, that I do not trust the Shin Bet, and I do not want my information to be in the hands of the Shin Bet. I mean, they've been abusing my colleague, another Amnesty International campaigner, for a few months now, only because he's Palestinian. They have been doing this for against Palestinians for years, and now they're just trying to do it for us. I mean, the Israeli government is known as a government that has blacklists of NGOs and human rights defenders and activists, and we do not need to be more tracked and surveillanced than we already are, and more hated.
This is very interesting that you referred to this, and please continue to share, because here in Portugal, our reality is that we are very free to do activism, because no one, our government doesn't want to control us. We don't feel like it. So to listen from the people that are feeling this, it's very important to us, so we can acknowledge what good we have here and still do more. Please continue.
Yeah, first of all, true and joy. But no, the context is super crucial, okay? It's completely different if you have a government that is known as a human rights violator, like Israel. And it doesn't matter if it's towards Palestinians under the occupation, Palestinians in Israel, asylum seekers, human rights activists, whoever, okay? Israel is a known human rights violator, and giving the Israeli government this free tool to keep track of everyone under the excuse of fighting Corona is very risky in Israel. It's very risky because we know that this information can be malused either by the Shin Bet or by the government or by the tons of ministries that we have. You know, we have one ministry that its all purpose is to stop activism and human rights defenders of Palestinians. I mean, it's like a present for them. So it can be malused by the government. It can be hacked by people from outside and be used. It's a very and even worse is that we find out that between Shin Bet and the Ministry of Health, they started to just flip-flop information about Israeli citizens like it's nothing. And the court had to stop them from passing this to local authorities, for example. So
and there is nothing that assures you that in the end they will stop this at the end of the pandemic.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So they did put some limitations on this order, on this emergency order. For example, that they can do it only for 2 weeks without asking for permission again, without renewing it. That the entire data collected would be deleted by a certain amount of time. But if no one supervises them, then how can we know that they're actually doing it and not, taking advantage of the situation and, passing it on to NGO Monitor or I don't know who. And we talked about it earlier when it was just you and me. So we have one big problem is that, and the other big problem is again the fear of this becoming a precedent that will repeat itself in a way that we cannot stop. I mean, they did it now for COVID-19. Maybe next time they will do it when they want to track down dissidents.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know.
They have the technology for it now.
Yeah, exactly. Asylum seekers, activists, left-wing, Palestinians, whoever. So this is
journalists also.
Journalists, and this is why when I start talking, I said that the context is important.
Yeah.
Because this is the risk of cyber, basically, of attack cyber, of stuff like Pegasus, like the software that NSO produces and sells, that it gives a lot of power to the person holds it. And if this person holding it, or the government holding it, or the army holding it are not democratic enough, are persecuting people, so this is just a danger.
Can you explain a bit more about the Pegasus and what what's the history behind it? Because it has been doing some damage for a while now.
Yeah, so NSO is an Israeli cyber firm that produces this malware that's called Pegasus, which they sell to. They say that they sell only to government or national organizations, like only officials. And once you have this software in your hands, you can basically if I had Pegasus, I could just send you a text with a link. And then once you pressed on the link, you have like a worm in your phone. So this is the software. And then once it's in, it can do everything. It completely controls your phone. So it can read and extract your emails, messages, voicemails, of course, tracking, geographically tracking, but also recording you, audio and video. So basically your phone becomes a weapon against you. NSO say that they started this software in order to fight terrorism and crime, but what they do on a normal basis is sell this software to governments that are known human rights violators, such as Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Mexico, and others that we don't know because Israel is very secret about its security export to other countries. But at Amnesty International Israel, we've been tracking them for 2 years now. And we have a petition against them pending in the court. We basically asked the Ministry of Defense to revoke their security export license so they can't harm the world anymore.
Sure.
Because what they did in the UAE and Mexico and other countries, they basically used Pegasus to stop journalists, dissidents, human rights activists. They put people in jail. There is an unproved rumor that Pegasus was involved in the murder of Jamal Khashoggi as well. And Pegasus was even used to try to spy on an Amnesty International staff member, not in Israel, in another country. And this is why we sued them in court. On this specific...
On those grounds, yeah.
Those grounds, and as well as what they do in the world. So for about 2 years, this is one of the most known company for the bad. The reputation got very, very worse. Just a month ago, the Organization for Journalists' Freedom declared them as an enemy for freedom of journalism. Yeah. And Facebook and WhatsApp is suing them in US court for hacking to 1,400 WhatsApp users all over the world. So they are very, very well known and not for the best. And they have lawsuits pending all over the world, in Israel, in the States, all over the world, really. And a few days ago, we hear that our Minister of Defense decided to collaborate with them and to start using a new tool that doesn't do what the Shin Bet does, but it's supposed to investigate people around the country and grade them for how risks are there to be in. I don't know. I don't even understand that. Okay, it gives grade from 1 to 10.
But this related to COVID-19 or just another thing?
No, it's related to COVID-19.
Okay.
First it was published on Bloomberg that NSO developed a tool that is supposed to be helpful in the COVID-19, fight. Then it was published by our Ministry of Defense that he wants to use this tool in Israel. and he's like, "Yalla, let's do it." And then
it's national goods.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have. I mean, we there was a big resistance from the public, from parliament members, from other ministers even. I mean, and there is some. So now it's still like debated. Like it was debated in the committee, in the cabinet, and it looks like they're really against it. So I hope it doesn't go any further. And of course, we emailed. Amnesty sent the letter to the committee, handles it, the Minister of Defense, and whoever is involved, alarming and saying not to cooperate with NSO, that even though they may have some, advanced cyber tools, the record of human rights violations can be trusted, and we cannot legitimize them. And what they're trying to do is use this COVID-19 crackdown for whitewashing all the crimes until now. And this is our fight at the moment.
So about maybe we said half an hour, 45 minutes, and it's gone. Maybe we can ask people to start sending their questions. There's already one there, but meanwhile I wanted to ask you about what's the feeling in Israel right now with COVID-19 relating to other human rights. Like I know that you already referred to the asylum seekers. What's happening with that, and also with do you feel that there's an increase on hate speech, discrimination, etc.? Tell us about it.
Thank you. So yes, unfortunately, we have in Israel around 30,000 asylum seekers from Eritrea and Sudan that are living in Israel for over 12, 13, 14 years with no status at all. Only the ability to stay in Israel and not be kicked out. That's it. So they don't have social wealth, they don't have social rights, they don't have health insurance or welfare insurance. And once the COVID-19 really peaked here, and the government decided to shut down all the cafes and restaurants and everything, they were about 2/3 of them lost their jobs because they were all working as in the kitchen or cleaning in these places, in coffee places and restaurants. So they are now unemployed. The majority of this population is now unemployed. Unlike Israeli citizens, they cannot go and ask for welfare because they are not covered, and Israeli government doesn't give them any right. And now we fight for them.
Not even access to a doctor if they need it.
Exactly, because they don't have public health insurance. They used to have health insurance from the job. Now they lost their job, so they lost their health insurance as well. So we're talking about a grave humanitarian crisis that is going to occur when people will be starving and will be thrown on the street because they can't afford to pay rent or to buy food. The government, not only does the government is reluctant to help them, they don't want to give them back money they already took for them. That is theirs in a deposit fund, so they can just bring it back to them, but they won't. And they're still discussing on how maybe to use this COVID-19 as a way to deport everyone out of Israel. So this is the way we treat asylum seekers in Israel, unfortunately. Regarding hate speech and incitement, you can see that the hate speech and incitement that was relating to Palestinians during the election time and the coalition building time now turned into whoever the government chooses to put on the line. So instead of us being angry and asking for our rights from the government. They're trying to, conquer, how do you say this, divide and conquer.
Yeah.
And say, oh, look at these Orthodox Jewish people in Jerusalem spreading the disease while all you good people stay at home. Or with the asylum seekers, it's become crazy. You have a very fascist citizenship movement against them in Tel Aviv, and they just posted some lies about them being on the street all the time, even though the camera on the street shows that the street is empty. So the prime minister decided to quarantine them because they do not listen to the policy, even though it's a one big fucking lie. So unfortunately in Israel, hate speech is not only like a horrifying public discourse, but it can lead to actual policies.
That's the populist mode of operation. It's let's find someone that has the guilt and direct it. So we have here two questions. First, we are going to answer this one from Reina. So she said, does Benjamin Netanyahu still have populist backing despite these policies, or is it wanting? Because people are beginning to see him for the autocrat that he is. It's a good question.
Raina, good question. Oh my God, unfortunately not. I mean, he's still on the right. I mean, it's very complex. We don't have a government.
Because you had 3 elections in the last 11 months or something, right?
No one is managing to form a coalition. You need a 61 majority of people in your coalition. So Gantz can't make it, Netanyahu can't make it. So now they're trying to form a joint emergency government, Gantz and Netanyahu together. So it won't be only Likud. It would be blue and white. I don't know if you're aware of the names, but it would mean that Netanyahu will be prime minister still for a year and a half, and then,
another election.
Benny Gantz. Yeah.
But your elections are what is the period between them? 3 years?
It's supposed to be every 4 years, but
4 years. Oh.
Yeah, but it's just that every term ended, like every election ended how do you say? When no
winner
able to create a government. So we have to vote again and again and again. And now
sorry.
Yeah, it was already, I mean, we were that close to kick Bibi out. And then Gantz chickened out and decided to be number 2 under his government. I mean, I can understand him, being a prime minister now in this COVID-19. I mean, this is such an headache. So unfortunately, we still have Bibi Netanyahu.
Yeah. Another question here from Sandra. She asks, do you think this pandemic could have the effects of unity between the peoples?
Definitely. I definitely do. And this is our challenge in our specific country, because our government is so inciting and trying to really divide us so they can rule better. This is a big challenge to overcome. So you can see on the ground, and in my Facebook feed, which is very narrow, but still, you can see people like tons of charity work around people that were severely hurt from this pandemic, whether it's unemployed people that can afford nothing now, whether it's whoever is in need. There's this, the MK, Ayman Odeh, is the head of the Joint List, the Palestinian Israeli party in the parliament, which is the third one today. I mean, she's like the third big. I don't know how to say it. So he just tweeted, for example, that the problem in Bnei Brak is like the problem in Naseret, and it's like the problem in South Tel Aviv. Asylum asylum seekers, Palestinians, Orthodox Jews, everyone basically, we are all in the same boat. We are all suffering from the same pandemic, but we're all suffering from the same policy trying to fight this pandemic without seeing us. I mean, I know in Portugal, asylum seekers were given full citizenship until this over, at least, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know that in many European
asylum seekers and other migrants that were migrants in general,
yeah. And European countries are putting tons of dollars or euros to help all the unemployed and all the independent businesses that had to shut down. Israel doesn't do that at all. So my hope is that this will be the time, and I already see this kind of how do you say, like arising from the ground, people who understand that we need to work together, that we need to fight together against capitalism, like every unemployed is the same. It doesn't matter who we are. And so I hope, but it's a big challenge against a very strong government.
Yeah, and I think here we feel it too. So people are beginning, I think, but I'm closed in my house for 21 days now, so I only feel this on Facebook and other social media, that people are beginning to be more empathic about the others. So they understand that their problems are probably like their own. So we are, if there is nothing that comes out from this that's good, this is, I think, a silver lining on the pandemic.
Yeah,
so let's see. Yeah. So
like
we have
asked, I hope that this will also help us to change our government, really, because people will be very crushed after this. Yeah. And if we can manage to get up together, it could be very optimistic.
So Bruna asks if what are the procedures related to education? So I think she means how are schools working right now?
Nothing. Everything is closed. We are we can't leave our house for over 100 meters.
So, but for example, here the schools are shut down, but the students have classes online.
Yeah, so we had that, and then we did it, and then the teacher wanted that, so it's a big mess. But basically, I have two kids, 3.5 and 6.5. They're both in kindergarten, like preschools.
Yeah,
and everything is shut down.
Oh, so the teachers didn't want to continue classes online, and they stopped.
I mean, they wanted to continue, but they wanted to get paid for it.
Oh, okay.
They wanted them to teach online. Without getting paid, it's not really work.
Oh, okay. Here the teachers are still being paid, so that's good.
Yeah. I'm gonna be moving to Portugal after this session, I think.
You are more than welcome. Okay, so we don't have any more questions. People are very shy, I think. I don't know. But I wanted to thank you so much for doing this with us. It's been amazing. I speak for me, I think, in all of our group that I'm sure they are watching. But it's very good for us to have a feeling what's there in that side. And if you need any help from us that we can help with, I don't know if you want to leave any message that you think it's important for people to know. Go ahead.
So, I think that we should remember that even though this is an emergency, human rights can't be just crushed. And we should be very careful on what's going on around us and being aware of what's going on around us, even in Portugal. Helping each other, solidarity, and fuck the system.
Yeah. I think that's we have to watch out what it's happening, because we are closed in our houses, but the world is still happening outside. So
okay,
and
keep a look on Israel for me as well.
Sure, will do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I just want to say that we have our next talk next Thursday about housing rights here in Portugal with our executive director. So we see everyone next Thursday, I hope. And thank you so much again.
Obrigada.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.